The Haunting of Mirror's End. It was a typical Friday night, and my friends and I were out exploring a mysterious and abandoned building rumored to be haunted. We had all heard the stories about this place, tales of strange occurrences and unsettling apparitions. While many believed it to be an urban legend, our curiosity got the best of us, and we decided to investigate. The night was cold, and the wind whistled through broken windows as we navigated the dark and decrepit corridors. The unsettling creaks of the old building added to our growing sense of unease. As we ventured deeper into the heart of the structure, we eventually stumbled upon a dimly lit restroom. It was a small, eerie space, and the cracked tiles and flickering overhead lights didn't make it any more inviting. As I entered the restroom, I felt an odd sense of foreboding. I stepped up to one of the broken mirrors, and when I gazed at my reflection, I noticed something chilling. My reflection didn't move in sync with me. It seemed to smirk menacingly, eyes glinting with an otherworldly malevolence. I stumbled back in terror, and my friends rushed to see what had startled me. They too noticed the eerie mirror phenomenon. It was as if the mirrors held a sinister secret, revealing an alternate reality, a parallel dimension lurking just beyond our reach. Reluctantly, we decided to press on, feeling that we couldn't leave without further investigating this restroom's chilling mystery. But as we continued through the building, it became increasingly apparent that we were not alone. Whispering voices echoed through the hallways, and ghostly apparitions flickered in and out of view, casting long, eerie shadows. We decided to retreat and regroup, but when we returned to the restroom, the entrance had vanished. It was as if the room had sealed itself off from the rest of the building, trapping us inside. Panic set in as we realized we were now prisoners of this supernatural restroom. As the night wore on, we could feel an oppressive and malevolent presence closing in around us. The dim lights flickered more erratically, and the whispers grew louder, distorted by madness and despair. It was as though the very walls of the restroom were alive and conspiring to keep us there forever. In our darkest hour, we gathered in a circle, clutching each other, trying to find solace and strength. And then, as the whispering voices reached their crescendo, a sudden burst of chilling laughter filled the air, and the mirrors shattered, unleashing a torrent of darkness that enveloped us. To this day, we remain trapped in that forsaken restroom, lost to the world and at the mercy of the malevolent forces that haunt it. If you ever find yourself in an abandoned building and you stumble upon a restroom that feels wrong, remember our story and leave before it's too late. The horrors within may be far too real. The restroom mirror. I was working late at night in the office building where I was assigned. I was the only one left in the building, and I needed to use the restroom before I went home. I walked down the hallway to the restroom, and I noticed that it was empty. I went into a stall and closed the door. I started to do my business, and then I looked up at the mirror. I didn't know why I did, but I did. And when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see myself. I saw something else. It was a woman. She had long black hair and pale skin. She was wearing a white dress, and she was staring at me with empty eyes. I was so scared that I froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I could only stare at the woman in the mirror. And then she smiled. It was a cold, cruel smile. It was the smile of a monster. And then she opened her mouth and she started to scream. I screamed too. I screamed as loud as I could. I tried to run, but I couldn't move. I was stuck in place. And the woman in the mirror kept screaming. She screamed until my ears rang. She screamed until I thought my head was going to explode. And then she stopped. Just as suddenly as she had started screaming, she stopped. I looked in the mirror again and she was gone. I was all alone. I ran out of the stall and out of the restroom. I ran down the hallway and out of the building. I didn't stop running until I got home. I never went back to that office building again. I don't know what the woman in the mirror was. I don't know if she was real or if she was just a figment of my imagination. But I know that she was something evil, and I know that I'll never forget her. The Reflections Labyrinth. I've got a story that's been haunting my dreams for years. It all started during a cross-country road trip I took with my friends. We were in search of adventure, but we found something far more sinister. One night, as we were passing through a remote, desolate stretch of highway, we decided to pull over at a rest area for a quick pit stop. It was late and the area was eerily quiet, with the only source of light coming from a single flickering lamppost. The restroom, the only building in sight, beckoned us, its door ajar. Entering the restroom, the atmosphere was heavy and a stale, damp odor hung in the air. The dim light bulbs buzzed overhead, casting long shadows that danced around the grimy tiles. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie. As I was approaching the sink, I noticed a large, ornate mirror, unlike any you typically find in a rest area restroom. Its frame was intricately carved, and the glass had a mystical quality that drew me in. But as I stared into my reflection, I noticed something unsettling. My reflection didn't mimic my movements accurately. It was lagging, almost as if it was playing a game of catch-up. I reached out to touch the mirror's surface, and my reflection grinned malevolently, its eyes turning a sinister shade of crimson. I stumbled back in shock, and my friends who had also noticed the eerie mirror rushed to my side. We decided to leave the restroom, but discovered that the door we had entered through was now sealed shut, as if it had never been opened. Panic set in as we realized we were trapped, and the restroom seemed to have taken on a life of its own. The temperature dropped dramatically, and a bone-chilling fog rolled in, obscuring the mirrors and distorting the reflections within them. In a desperate attempt to escape, we tried to break the mirrors, but they were indestructible, like a force beyond our comprehension was protecting them. As the minutes turned into hours, we were tormented by ghostly apparitions that flickered in and out of existence, whispering tales of lost souls and torment. But the most unsettling part was the feeling of being watched. It was as if the mirrors were windows to another dimension, one inhabited by malevolent entities, and they were scrutinizing our every move. As the night wore on, we huddled together, terrified and powerless. The restroom had become a realm of shadows and torment, and it was clear that we were not alone. It was a realm where time seemed to stand still, and the mirrors held the key to a sinister world we could never escape. To this day, the memory of that night haunts my dreams, a reminder of the eerie restroom that trapped us in a world of darkness and despair.